everybody, it is early April here in Michigan and I am ready to get out in the garden and start to get it ready for planting in May. Now typically I do not start this early, or I wouldn't start it this early because you have the chance of bees and butterflies that will create nests and hibernate in the leaves and branches in your garden. So you typically don't want to touch it until it is warm enough where they have already emerged. However, this being my second year with the garden, and it's big and it is quite weedy and a mess still, even from the work I did in the fall. So I do want to start it a little early this year. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be laying more cardboard boxes. So if you can see, I did lay some last fall, and that was in hopes to help with controlling the weeds. So I'm going to lay more boxes kind of over in this area way over there, so that that seemed to be a big problem area for me last year. That's where I had my lettuce and carrots and beets and potatoes, and I ended up just letting them go. I didn't even do anything with them because the weeds were so bad. I couldn't keep up with it and control it. So my goal is to try and get some boxes down to help control it after I pull up some of the old weeds. And then another good idea if you're trying to control the weeds is getting some leaves or chopped up grass clippings, things like that. So things that have already decomposed, kind of your compost, if you would. If you lay those leaves all chopped up over top of the boxes, it'll help them break down. And also you could just throw that, if you don't have any boxes or don't have enough boxes, you can just lay chopped up leaves over top of the garden, and it does help to control your weeds. So that is my goal, is to try to get as much as I can throughout the garden so that hopefully it's less maintenance throughout the year. You'll always have some weeds by all means, but I'm going to try to see if I can control it. So we're going to be working on that today. I also have my raspberry area. We only have one row of cable. So what we're going to try and do is make 2 rows so that the raspberries have some place to grow up in between. I didn't have anything fruit last year because it was the first year planting them, so I don't have anything to prune back this year, but next year I will, and I can kind of show you how I would do that. So we're going to work on making that. I also have this fence area where I had the green beans last year. I am actually going to take that out, and I am going to have 2 trellises. So instead of doing just 1 log fence, I'm going to make 2 trellises, one for the cucumbers and one for the green beans this year. Something a little bit different and something that I can keep from year to year. So as you can see, we've got all the weeds here. That's a big old pile from the fall that I never removed. So I'm just going to get to work. You can kind of see the progress as we go. I also bought a couple grape plants, blueberries, that I'm going to plant. Those are going to be outside the garden in a couple other areas. So I'm going to plant those as well today and just kind of start getting things cleaning up. I've got 6 more weeks till I can plant in. I need to get the garden ready by then. So each week we'll be out here working on it.
After it looks so much better. Over here. Not a big pile anymore, nothing.
We're back out in the garden again this week. Last week we worked about 3 hours. We got a lot of like the dead, tall foliage up. So today we're gonna work a little bit on that, and we're gonna work on some of these green patches of weeds that we have in the garden. And hopefully by the end of today, or at least by next week, whoa, it's windy, we'll be able to start rototilling in everything and just getting the ground ready to plant in a couple weeks. So we're gonna keep working at it and see how much we can get done today.
Probably a lot more.
Kind of work on this really weedy area. This was our problem area last year, so I'm gonna try to get a control of it today. All right, so I decided to go ahead and just rototill the garden, and look at how much better it looks already. I'm breathing hard because it's a lot of work to do that. But now we can actually go through and just pick up the chunks of green patches of grass and weeds that we had in here. Instead of trying to dig them out and then do it, I figured we might as well just bring it up with the rototiller. Now the problem with rototilling without getting all of the foliage and stuff out, a lot of that went to seed last year because we didn't take care of it. So I have the chance of just grounding that seed into the soil and getting it ready to germinate. So we're gonna try and go through as much as we can and just pick up all of that and the grass and see what we can control. Obviously, this is only the second year, so it's still going to be a lot of work, but I'm hoping that if we can get an early start on managing the weeds, rototilling, and getting all of these grass package and weeds that we have up, that it won't be as bad as it was last year. So, all right, we're going to get picking all of the weeds out now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Busy Garden Life. I am Sarah, and today we are back in the garden getting it prepared for some of our planting. Now planting is not going to happen for a couple weeks, but you can direct sow some things like beets and peas, and so in order to do that, especially my peas, I want to get my trellis up. Now I didn't have a trellis last year. This is first year for me to do this, but if you have a smaller garden, or like me, I have a large garden, but I want to grow a lot of some things, so I'm using a trellis in order to help them grow up instead of out, which would take up more room. Now, I have researched quite a bit, and I have found that the cattle panels are the best thing for a trellis. They are relatively inexpensive. It was $28 for one panel, which is 16 foot by 50 inches. And we are using T-posts in order to secure them on each side, which were less than $5 for 5 of them. So altogether, we're spending like $33 for one trellis, and on Amazon, the fancy ones can be up to $80. So I find they're large and they hold up well year to year to year, and they're relatively inexpensive. So I have 4 of them that I'm going to do kind of back to back to form like a big tunnel of arches. One of them will be just for my pole beans. One of them is going to be for my peas. I'm going to have 2 different variety of peas on each side. One of them's for my cucumbers. One side will be regular cucumbers and the other will be pickled cucumbers. And the last one will be for zucchini. Yes, you can grow your zucchini up onto a trellis, and that saves a lot of room. And it also helps to prevent some of the powdery mildew that you can get. You might still get it, but it's not as bad from what I hear on these trellises. So we will see that this year. And then I have 3 other ones. I'm going to try this year. We're going to see how it works, but I'm using it for my pumpkins. Yes, the large pumpkins. They stay on the vine pretty well. So I'm planning on doing them kind of like a back-to-back hump this way instead of a big, large tunnel. Because they will just fall off the vine. That's usually how you know they're ripe. by the time they fall off, it's going to be squashed on the ground and you won't get anything at all. So just to keep in mind, a lot of your viney plants, your squashes, beans, peas, cucumbers, and pumpkins, that's what I'm growing, we're going to grow up. All right, so we're going to work on that today, try to get those all ready. I have my garden plan. That's the nice thing about the garden plan, right? So I have my garden already planned out. I know where I want to plant things. So all we need to do is measure so that I can put these in place and I don't have to change it from year to year to year. So let's get to work. We have our 4 trellises for the beans, peas, cucumbers, and squash / zucchini. We ended up doing them about 7 foot apart. So the posts are about 7 foot apart, and then just a little bit inside the width. So I think we did 46 inches wide between the post this way, 7 foot this way, and it made a nice arch that's a little over 6 foot tall. So perfect, so that we can still reach all of the produce that comes off of it. Even the kids probably could to some extent. So end up being a perfect size. And now we are going to do the pumpkins. We're going to actually do them back to back, the arches this way. We'll see. Here are our pumpkin trellises. So hopefully if I plant on either side, the pumpkin vines can kind of grow up and over and around and even underneath instead of going through the garden. Now I'll probably have to guide them here and there, but ultimately we'll see if it works. I hope it does. That way we can continue to grow pumpkins in here. Otherwise we might have to find another spot. So there you go, a couple hours of work and should be good for years to come. Well, what a day we had today. We finished all but one side of the top portion of our fence, and we also completed the side that we had to redo. We did the top and the bottom. So it was quite the pain trying to get the fencing on the top portion, but we did it, and the garden is starting to look more complete and more secure from all of the deer that roam around. So check it out.